I was 22, armed with a crisp degree in economics and a coveted spot on a graduate scheme with a major property developer in Cardiff. For a boy from the valleys like me, whose family history was written in coal dust, this was it. This was the escape hatch. Cardiff was a city high on its own regeneration, a forest of cranes clawing at the sky, building shiny new futures out of glass and steel. My future felt just like that, shiny, solid, and reaching for the sky. My life was a blueprint, meticulously drafted, a good job in a booming industry, a smart flat in Cardiff Bay with water views, and a clear 5-year plan that led to a senior position and a comfortable life. I believed in the plan with an almost religious fervor. I believed in the solid, predictable, upward trajectory of things. I had absolutely no idea the entire global economy and my own heart with it was a bubble waiting for a pin. I met Anwen in June. I was out with my new work friends, all of us loud and obnoxious in our cheap suits and pointy shoes, celebrating the end of another 70-hour week of spreadsheets and site surveys. We were in Club for Bach, the legendary sticky-floored music venue that was the absolute antithesis of our corporate world. She was behind the bar, pulling pints of brains with an air of serene indifference, a small silver ring in her nose. She had a cascade of fiery red hair that fell into her eyes and eyes the color of sea-green slate. She wasn't impressed by our loud talk of property portfolios and bonuses. She looked at us with a gentle, amused pity, as if we were a strange species she was observing from a safe distance. I was immediately captivated. I kept finding excuses to go back to the bar, stumbling over my words, trying to think of something interesting to say. Finally, I just asked her about the band that was sound checking. Her whole face lit up. She spoke about music with a passion and intelligence that made my talk of profit margins feel cheap and hollow. She was a singer, a songwriter. Her life had no blueprint. It was a beautiful, chaotic improvisation. She was everything my structured, ambitious life was not. She was real. Our romance unfolded against the backdrop of that long, hot, oblivious summer. We fell in love. It was fast and easy and felt as inevitable as the sun rising over the Severn. Our worlds, which should have been incompatible, merged perfectly. I'd leave my sterile office, loosen my tie, and step into her world of art and music. One Friday night, I went to see her band play in a tiny packed pub in Pontcanna. The room was hot and smelled of spilled beer. When she stepped up to the microphone, she transformed. This quiet, witty woman became a force of nature, her voice a raw, powerful thing that could silence a room. She sang songs about love and loss, and the rain in Wales, and I stood in the crowd completely mesmerized. I wasn't just in love with her, I was in awe of her. She, in turn, was charmed by what she called my earnest ambition. She'd look at my architectural plans and spreadsheets with a genuine curiosity, trying to understand the language of my world. We spent days walking through Boot Park, our fingers intertwined. We spent nights in her small, cluttered flat, filled with books and instruments, a world away from my minimalist rental in the Bay. We were making our own plans. We talked about moving in together the following year. I'd show her listings for flats with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. "Look at that view, Anwen," I'd say, full of the unshakable confidence of a young man who has never known failure. "That's our future." She'd smile and kiss me, but even then there was a flicker of something in her eyes I didn't understand, a quiet reservation. I thought our love was as solid as the new St. David's 2 shopping center rising from the heart of the city. I didn't know it was all just credit, a bubble about to burst. The crash didn't come all at once. It started as a low hum of anxiety in the news, whispers in the office about subprime mortgages and credit crunches. Then in September, Lehman Brothers collapsed. The hum became a roar. The world I had banked my entire future on, the world of endless growth and secure investments, evaporated in a matter of days. My office became a morgue. The confident swagger of my colleagues was replaced by a gray, sweaty fear. Emergency meetings were called. The words redundancy, restructuring, and unprecedented became the new office jargon. My 5-year plan, my blueprint, turned to dust in my hands, and I changed. Easy, optimistic confidence that Anwen had been drawn to was replaced by a brittle, gnawing anxiety. I stopped listening to her music. I stopped hearing her. I was glued to the 24-hour news cycle. My evenings spent not with her, but with the grim-faced pronouncements of bankers and politicians on BBC News 24. My mind was a frantic mess of debt-to-equity ratios and crashing stock markets. She tried to reach me. She would make dinner, and I would stare past her at the television, my jaw tight. She'd rub my shoulders, which were knotted with tension, and I'd flinch. "It's just a job, Cariad," she'd say softly, using the Welsh word for love that used to melt me. "We'll be all right. We have this." But I couldn't hear her. In my mind, the job wasn't just a job. It was everything. It was the proof that I had escaped my small town, the foundation of the life I had promised her. Without it, who was I? Her grounded artistic soul, which I had once found so captivating, now felt like a willful ignorance of the catastrophe unfolding. Her calmness felt like she didn't understand how serious this was, how completely my world was falling apart. The final conversation happened on a cold, rainy night in November. My redundancy notice had come that day, delivered in a crisp, impersonal envelope. I was numb, hollowed out. I went to her flat, and I think I wanted comfort, but I didn't know how to ask for it. I just stood in the middle of her warm, cluttered living room, a ghost in a machine I had broken. "I lost the job," I said, the words tasting like failure. "I know, Gareth. I'm so sorry," she said, her eyes full of a genuine pain that I was too self-absorbed to properly see. "It's all right. We'll figure it out." "Oh, figure what out?" I snapped, the fear finally turning to anger. "There's nothing to figure out, Anwen. It's over. The plan is over." She looked at me then, her head tilted, and her expression was one of dawning, heartbreaking realization. "The plan," she said, her voice quiet. "That's what this was all about. The plan." Oh, of course that's what it was about. The flat, the future, everything. She took a step back, and it felt like she had moved a mile away. Her face was a mask of sorrow. "I fell in love with a man, Gareth," she said, her voice steady and clear, but trembling with a sadness that cut through my panic. "Not a 5-year plan, and for the last 2 months I haven't known who you are without it." The words hit me with the force of a physical blow, because they were true. I had let my ambition swallow my identity. The fear of losing my future had made me sacrifice my present. I had been so focused on the view from the window that I had forgotten the person I wanted to share it with. There was nothing left to say. The bubble had burst. In the space of a few months I had lost everything I thought was important. The job, the flat, the future. But the real heartbreak, the one that still aches on cold, rainy nights, is that I didn't just lose her. I threw her away. I was so terrified of the wreckage that I failed to see the one person willing to stay and help me rebuild. I had built my life on a foundation of sand, and when the tide went out, it took everything, especially the one thing that had ever been truly solid.